Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most fascinating things I've observed over the years isn't how smart people build companies, it's how they protect culture. And more specifically, how they respond to toxic people. Now, when I say toxic people, I don't mean villains with capes and evil plans. I'm talking about the subtle saboteurs, the ones who criticize more than they contribute, the ones who drain energy instead of giving it, the ones who seem to create chaos wherever they go. We've all met them, maybe in our workplace, in our families, sometimes even in the mirror. But here's the interesting part. Smart people, the ones we admire, the ones we call leaders, they treat toxic people very differently than most of us do. They don't attack them. They don't fear them. And they certainly don't mirror them. Instead, they understand them. Let me tell you a quick story. I was once talking to a CEO, a really successful guy, and I asked him how he handles negativity in his company. You know what he said? He said, I listen for the pain behind the poison. One of the most powerful habits of truly smart people is their ability to pause. When faced with difficult people or emotionally charged situations, they resist the urge to react because they understand something most of us forget in the moment. Reacting is easy, responding is hard. Anyone can snap back. Anyone can raise their voice, roll their eyes, or send a passive-aggressive email. But that doesn't require intelligence. It just requires ego. What takes real strength and real self-awareness is choosing to respond with intention, to slow down, to step back, to ask, what's really going on here? Smart people don't get pulled into drama just because it's loud. They don't let someone else's chaos dictate their character. Instead, they become observers. They notice patterns, they reflect, they ask deeper questions. Not just what did they say to me, but why might they be saying that? What are they really trying to express, and what do I want to create in this moment? That's the essence of intentionality. It's choosing how to show up rather than letting a moment choose it for you. Imagine someone in your team constantly criticizes your ideas. It would be easy to feel disrespected and defensive. But the smart person steps back and thinks, is this criticism rooted in fear? Are they trying to feel important? Are they insecure about their own role? That doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It means you understand it. And from that place of understanding, you can choose how to respond with calm, with clarity, with strength. This doesn't make you a pushover. In fact, it's the opposite. Smart people have the emotional discipline to stand their ground without throwing punches. They can be firm without being rude. They can disagree without being disrespectful. And most importantly, they stay in control, not of the other person, but of themselves. And that control, that's what earns trust. That's what builds influence. People don't follow the loudest person in the room. They follow the one who stays grounded when things get hard. One of the defining traits of emotionally intelligent and truly smart people is their ability to set healthy boundaries, but not in a way that disconnects them from others. They don't shut people out. They don't isolate themselves or become cold. Instead, they create space that protects their peace while still leaving room for empathy, respect, and connection. It's a delicate balance because, let's be honest, when someone is toxic or draining, our natural instinct is to either fight or flee. We either get into power struggles or we go silent. But smart people don't do either. They don't engage in drama and they don't disappear. They stay present with intention while drawing a clear line between what's okay and what's not. Setting a boundary doesn't mean you stop caring about someone. It means you care enough about yourself to say, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I will allow and this is what I won't. Smart people understand that you can be kind and firm at the same time. You can love people from a distance. You can be available but not absorbent. You can say no without guilt and yes without resentment. And here's what's really important. Boundaries are not for keeping people out. They're for keeping your values in. They're how you preserve your time, your energy, and your mental clarity so you can show up fully where it matters most. Let's say you have a colleague who constantly unloads negativity onto you, always complaining, always gossiping. A wall would be cutting them off completely, avoiding every interaction. But a boundary would sound like, I'm here for you, but I can't be the space where you bring this every day. If you need support, let's focus on solutions. It's honest, it's respectful, and it doesn't compromise your own well-being in the process. Boundaries also send a subtle message, one that smart people understand intuitively. I know my worth. When you hold a boundary, you're saying that your time and energy are valuable, that you're not available for dysfunction, that you won't abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. And here's the beautiful thing. When you lead with that kind of self-respect, the right people will adjust, the wrong ones will leave. Either way, your life becomes healthier, cleaner, lighter. Smart people don't need to be loud about their boundaries. They simply live them. Over time, their presence becomes a quiet form of leadership. People feel it, they trust it. Because there's something deeply magnetic about someone who knows how to hold their space without losing their humanity. Smart people have a superpower, and it's not what you might think. It's not that they always have the best comebacks or the sharpest arguments. It's that they've trained themselves to look beyond the behavior and into the person behind it. When someone lashes out, criticizes, manipulates, or gossips, they don't just hear the words, they listen for the pain behind the poison. Because toxic behavior, more often than not, is a symptom. It's not the root issue, it's the signal. And smart people know that most people don't wake up in the morning and choose to be toxic. They're reacting to something. Fear, insecurity, past trauma, rejection, or maybe just a deep need to feel seen and significant. Instead of labeling someone as difficult and walking away, smart people get curious. Not necessarily to excuse the behavior, but to understand it. And in that space of understanding, they gain something powerful: perspective. Let's say someone constantly interrupts, always needs to be right, or refuses to give credit to others. On the surface, that's frustrating, but when you look closer, it often stems from a fear of being overlooked, or a deep need for control because they feel powerless in other areas of their life. Maybe they learned long ago that their worth was tied to performance, not presence. Now, this doesn't mean smart people become therapists to everyone around them, but it does mean they approach these moments with compassion instead of judgment. They ask themselves, what might this person be going through that I can't see? That question alone changes the entire emotional tone of the interaction. And here's the magic of it. When you look for the pain, you stop taking things personally. You stop absorbing every jab and complaint. You create a healthy distance. Not to disconnect, but to observe with clarity. That's emotional intelligence at work. Smart people realize that when someone is being toxic, they're often just expressing unprocessed pain in the only way they know how. It's not right, and it's not okay to hurt others, but it is human. And recognizing that humanity is the first step toward either healing the relationship or letting go of it with peace. You see, it's easy to meet toxicity with more toxicity, but that only deepens the wound for both people. It takes wisdom to pause, look beneath the surface, and lead with empathy. It takes strength to say, I see the pain here, but I won't let it define how I treat you or how I treat myself. In the end, smart people don't ignore the poison, but they don't let it poison them either. They look deeper, they listen wider, and sometimes by simply recognizing someone's pain, they help stop the cycle. That's not just intelligence, that's leadership. There's a common misconception that kindness and strength are opposites, that being kind means being passive, that if you don't fight back, you're weak. But smart people, emotionally intelligent people, know that kindness when rooted in self-respect, is one of the greatest displays of strength. They don't choose conflict as their first language. They don't seek to dominate, humiliate, or overpower someone just to prove a point. Instead, they lead with calm, with grace, with kindness. But, and this is critical, it's not people-pleasing kindness. It's not the kind that sacrifices dignity or silences your own truth just to keep the peace. It's not the kind that lets toxicity slide in the name of being nice. Smart people draw the line between being kind and being compliant. They know that real kindness has boundaries. It says, I can be respectful, but I won't be walked over. I'll hear your perspective, but I won't let you distort mine. It's a steady hand, not a silent surrender. You see, smart people understand something simple but profound. You can disagree with someone without demeaning them. You can speak truth without raising your voice. You can say enough without being cruel. They don't get pulled into emotional warfare because they don't confuse drama with dialogue. Let's imagine someone speaks to them in a condescending tone. They don't immediately react by mirroring that tone. They don't start a shouting match. But they also don't smile and pretend it's okay. Instead, they respond with grounded clarity. I'd like to have this conversation with mutual respect. If that's not possible right now, let's continue later. That's kindness with self-respect. That's maturity. What's so powerful about this approach is that it disarms people. Toxic individuals often expect either total submission or full-on confrontation. When someone responds with poised kindness and clear boundaries, it breaks the pattern. It forces a pause. And in that pause, sometimes change becomes possible. But even if the other person doesn't change, the smart person stays anchored in who they are. Because for them, integrity matters more than ego. They're not trying to win a moment. They're trying to win their peace. And peace is only possible when you don't betray yourself to keep others comfortable. So no, smart people don't start fights, but they don't flee from them either. They step into hard conversations with courage and compassion. They value human dignity, theirs and others. And they know that every interaction is an opportunity to model what healthy respect looks like. Kindness is not weakness. It's emotional discipline. It's self-control. It's a decision to act from values instead of reacting from wounds. And when you lead with that kind of kindness, the kind rooted in self-worth, you don't just avoid unnecessary conflict. You elevate the entire room. Smart people know something that most of us learn the hard way. Your energy is your most valuable currency. It fuels your focus, your creativity, your presence, your relationships, everything. And just like money, if you don't protect it, it gets spent in the wrong places, on the wrong people, and for the wrong reasons. That's why emotionally intelligent people, the truly smart ones, treat their energy like gold. They guard it, they invest it wisely, and they don't let just anyone have access to it. Because energy is contagious. Who you spend time with shapes how you think, how you feel, and even who you become. Spend enough time around toxic people, the complainers, the manipulators, the ones who thrive on drama, and you start to absorb it. Your mind gets foggier. You start questioning yourself, losing focus, and shrinking your joy to match their negativity. Smart people see that happening early. They don't wait until they're burned out or bitter. They notice the shift and they act. Not out of arrogance, not because they think they're better than anyone, but because they've learned that protecting your energy is an act of responsibility, not selfishness. They don't attend every argument they're invited to. They don't chase validation from people committed to misunderstanding them. And they don't waste hours trying to fix someone who isn't ready to grow. Instead, they create intentional environments, ones that fuel them instead of draining them. They surround themselves with people who challenge them constructively, who bring solutions instead of just problems, who inspire progress rather than pull them into chaos. And when they can't avoid toxic energy, because let's face it, sometimes it's in the workplace, in the family, in the environment you can't immediately change, they build internal boundaries. They don't absorb. They observe. They create emotional distance, even if physical distance is impossible. And they adjust accordingly because they know that if they give away all their energy to the wrong people, they'll have nothing left for the people who truly need them, their team, their loved ones, their mission, their purpose. At the end of the day, smart people understand this simple truth. You can't control how others show up, but you can control what you allow in your space. You can choose what you amplify, what you ignore, and what you walk away from. Your energy shapes your leadership, it shapes your impact. They don't just manage their time, they master their energy. Let me know if you'd like a combined PDF or slides of all 5 points expanded, or want them rewritten into content pieces for social media or a workshop. Of course, while your original request listed only 5 points, let's treat this as a continuation, perhaps a sixth insight that naturally builds from the previous ones. A perfect one to explore could be, one of the most overlooked skills in dealing with toxic people is discernment, knowing when to engage and when to let go. Smart people don't avoid hard conversations, but they also don't waste their breath on battles that lead nowhere. They have the courage to confront when it matters, the wisdom to walk away when it's necessary, and the clarity to know the difference. That balance doesn't come from a textbook. It comes from experience. It comes from making mistakes, confronting too quickly or staying too long. But eventually, emotionally intelligent people learn to read the room. They learn to read themselves. And over time, they develop an internal compass that guides them not just in what to say, but whether to say anything at all. Confrontation is not about being right, it's about being real. It's the willingness to stand up and say, this behavior isn't okay. This crossed a line. It's not about yelling or accusing. It's about truth-telling with calm, with clarity, and with purpose. Smart people confront because they care about the relationship, the environment, the culture. They understand that silence can be just as damaging as shouting, especially when toxicity goes unchecked. Speaking up is a form of leadership, but only when done with intention. On the other side of that coin is something just as powerful, the ability to walk away, not in bitterness, not in defeat, but in peace. Sometimes, no matter how many conversations you have, how much empathy you offer, or how many chances you give, the other person just isn't ready to change. And smart people don't try to carry someone who's committed to standing still. They don't burn bridges for fun, but they also don't keep crossing the same broken one, hoping for a different result.